gather at a pivotal moment in our nation's history. This past year has brought historic wins for LGBTQ plus representation, even as attacks on trans youth, or as we've had book bans and political extremism reminded us how fragile progress can be. But our community has shown remarkable resilience. As the first gay president of Columbus City Council, thank you, I've seen how representation drives change. Under our leadership, Columbus has consistently received a perfect HRC Municipal Equality Index score. We created our first LGBTQ plus affairs commission, and we strengthened our local protections so that every resident, especially our LGBTQ youth and families, can live openly and safely. When we lead with our values, our community moves forward. And across our country, that same momentum is growing. New candidates are stepping up. Are there any new candidates in the room? Oh, let's give it up for our new candidates who are stepping up in this historic moment. More LGBTQ plus leaders winning and a movement that refuses to back down. So today's panel reflects the strength and that progress. We're joined by leaders who embody the diversity and the courage of this moment. Today's panel reflects that momentum, and we are joined by leaders who embody the diversity, the strength, and the clarity of our movement. So would you please help me introduce our panel? So first, we have Minnesota State Representative Lee Finke. Representative Finke. Representative Finke was elected in 2022 to the Minnesota House of Representatives, the first openly transgender legislator in the state of Minnesota. Let's give it up for Representative Finke. She chairs and has helped found the Legislative Queers Caucus and is the current chair of the Reproductive Freedom Caucus. Let's give it up for Representative Finke. Next, we have my friend and the mayor of San Diego, Mayor Todd Gloria. Let's give it up for our mayor. The mayor said he's the gayest mayor. If the representative gets to be the gayest representative, you're the gayest mayor? 100%. There we go. Yes. Mayor Gloria was elected in 2020 as the 37th mayor of San Diego. He's the first openly gay person and the first person of color ever elected to lead the city. How amazing. Let's give it up for her. Next, we have Florida State Representative, Ms. Michelle Rayner. Representative Rayner, let's give it up for her. The great state of Florida is in the house. Rep. Rayner says she's loving this northern weather.
Oh, it's my favorite.
Rep. Rayner was elected to the Florida House of Representatives in 2020, and she's the first openly queer black woman ever elected to the Florida legislature. And her background is a civil rights attorney with a JD from the Florida Coastal School of Law. Let's give it up for our representative. And last but certainly not least, Representative Mark Takano. Let's give it up for our representative. Representative was elected to the United States House of Representatives in 2012. He's the first openly gay person of color and the first openly gay Asian American ever elected to Congress. We stand on your shoulders. We stand on your shoulders. Previously a high school teacher and served on the board of the Riverside Community College District, including as board president. He now serves as ranking member of the House Committee on Veterans Affairs and previously as its chair. Please help us introduce this amazing panel. So let's jump right in. Together, you represent the local, state, and federal levels of our government. And from your vantage point, what has changed the most in the last year since President Trump has come into office? How has it changed how you have led and how you've still been able to get things done? Representative, can we start with you?
Well, what I've noticed is that LGBT organizations have struggled with some of their corporate partners, frankly. Sure. There's been a pullback. I've noticed that I feel like it's less cool to be LGBTQ right now. It's like this president has put can you choose this? Okay. Hello. And voters, the people are expecting members of Congress or elected officials to do anything they can do to show up they can stand up to President Trump. That's what the expectation is. And so the struggle is to do something that is meaningful, that's not just performative, but people want to see you in the fight, basically. They want to see you in the fight. They want to know that you're standing up for them. And I feel like our role, the role of elected official, is to show that they have fight, to show and to do things that that give people hope. Yeah. So that is what I think about 24/7, every day. What can I do to lift spirits? The good news is that I feel like there has been a shift. Yeah. This president clearly is in lame duck territory. He's a lame duck. Nothing's finished or done. We can't put our feet up, far to the contrary, but we have an opportunity to bring accountability and put a check on the president.
Yes.
And that's what I'm working on.
Thank you, Rep.
That's what I'm doing.
Can y'all hear me without this?
Oh, that's
okay.
Good. That's strong.
Okay, it's very strong. Okay. What has changed? I mean, well, one, I live in Florida, so nothing has changed really for me. And I think Senator Carlos Guillermo Smith is in here. Yes, and our other good friend, Senator Chevron Jones, sends his love. He was not able to be here. But for us, really, things have not changed. What we're seeing with Project 2025, that started in Florida, right? A lot of things that you saw, Florida was the testing ground for it. So we saw that. What I think is what is the call for this moment and how to get things done, I think people have to decide who they're going to be, right? I think you have to decide what your profile of courage moment is. And so for me, Senator Smith and Senator Jones and Representative Nixon and Representative Escamani, we decided to pop up at the concentration camp that's down in the Everglades. And this was a this was a camp that was literally, built under the guise of night, outside of the legislative oversight process. And, we did it unannounced. We weren't let in, and then we filed a lawsuit that is currently still pending against the governor. And so now I'm very clearly aware that we have a legislative session coming up, right? I'm going to ask for things in the budget, and the man is going to veto me. Sure, cool. But once again, we had to understand, we had to decide who we were going to be in this moment. Were we going to be, I'm going to be silent and hopefully I can get things done and hopefully he won't exact any type of, revenge? Or are we going to stand up for the people that have elected us to be in office and do the thing? Because at this moment, everyone's going to have a profile of courage moment. Your moment will look different than mine, but you're going to have to decide in your state, in your nation, who you are going to be. And if you want to hang out and chill out and keep your elected position, if you're elected, do that. I don't really care about that. I care about making sure that people know that they have leaders that are willing to fight and stand up for them in the face of fascism. And that is what I think the call for this moment is. Joe, stop.
This is also a big follow Black women moment too. So yes, yes, sis.
Yes.
Mayor, I'm sorry you have to follow a Black woman after that.
Just my luck, thank you. I'm from California, so a lot has changed.
Praise God for you.
Yeah. And I would say shout out to my San Diegans who are over here, including Councilmember Stephen Whitburn, who is here, continuing our proud tradition of out representation on the San Diego City Council, where 1/3 of our city council is gay, plus a big old gay mayor.
Yes.
I mean, try that on for size San Francisco, right? So it's been 11 months. It feels like 11 centuries.
Yes.
And what's changed is I feel a heaviness.
Yeah.
A sadness, just a near depression. Listen, we've all been in it, right? And I think what's dangerous or scary about that is that we could be that for 4 years, or as is being suggested, we can find some other way to rally. And I think The challenge, particularly at the local level, is that we still got to pick up the garbage.
Yeah.
Right? We still got to pave the roads. And for every real and invented crisis that this administration creates seemingly on the hour, if not daily basis, we still have a homelessness crisis that has enveloped our entire country. We have a housing affordability crisis that is so very, very real. Infrastructure issues. This is probably not sexy for a lot of you, but for me, this is sexy stuff. We've got 100-year-old assets that are crumbling, and yet we're talking about whatever horribly racist, offensive thing that has been said. And what I worry about is that the people that we need to convince to vote for something different, and particularly those folks who probably are open on our issues, but who may not vote for someone who is good on our issues because they don't see the forward progress in their own lives. The road has not been paved. The rent is going up higher. The groceries are the same as they've ever been. And there's a level of sort of like a pox in all their houses. And so my presence here today is to say that as frustrating it is at the national level, and thank God there's people like Mark DeCano working at the national level to protect us, look local. Because state and local folks can still get things done, and what we ought to be doing is creating the templates to rebuild once this national nightmare is over, and that's what I'm trying to do in San Diego.
Do I need this?
Let's see.
Can folks hear me? Yeah. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Lee. What has changed in the last year? I'll speak from my perspective as a transgender woman. I think everything about being trans in the United States has changed. On the first day of this presidency, we saw the executive orders eliminating the existence of transgender people from federal recognition. Every day since then, it's gotten a little bit worse, in my opinion. I think that there is a broad campaign of terrorism against people who are transgender, no matter where you live, no matter how you identify, trans, non-binary, two-spirit folks. It is not just a campaign of culture, but it is a campaign that is costing us our rights and our lives. We are seeing healthcare taken away, right? It has been limited across the country, as we heard. Things in Florida and Texas and other places have been what they are, but we are seeing it now also lost in places like Chicago and Massachusetts and California, institutions that are pre-complying with the president's orders that have not yet come out, say, for example, the Medicare rules that we expect any day now. We are 1 year in. I expect a year from now to be about twice as bad. I think that's who we are up against. I don't come with a message of optimism. I apologize. But I do think that we have to understand the authoritarian moment.
Yes.
And we have to understand that the eradication of transgender people from public life is not a threat, it is a goal, right? It is a goal that is being attempted. Just like this man said this week about my friends, that they are garbage who should be removed from the country, about the Somali population in Minnesota. That's not a threat, that's a goal. Mm-hmm. These are things that they want to achieve, and they're going to try to achieve, and we need to be ready to spend the next 3 years or more combating that goal.
And we're all grateful that you're right on the front lines combating it with us and for us. So thank you so much for your leadership. Rep. DeCano's picking up what the rep was speaking about. We just came off of a presidential election where attacks on trans youth, trans folks, attacks on LGBTQ folks was used as the reason why we lost the election. There was a lot of scapegoating that happened after President Kamala Harris did not win. How has things changed after the year has moved forward? Is there a different sense within the Congress as we get closer to the midterms? How are we speaking as on the federal level as we get to the elections about LGBTQ rights?
Let me start with what it felt like being in Washington right after the elections in 2024. I was alerted by my Equality Caucus. By the way, I'm the chair of the Equality Caucus, which includes the 12 LGBTQI identified members, but up to, I think, 194 members of our caucus, all Democrats, paid dues. So I'm the leader of the gays in Congress, basically, and the allies. So I was alerted by Jordan Dashow, our executive. Jordan, stand up, because you were an amazing executive director, Jordan Dashow. Jordan's over there. Jordan goes, boss, we've got to deal with an anti-trans total ban on sports participation. It's probably going to be the second vote. We haven't been sworn in yet, but we expect it to happen. It could be the day that we're sworn in or the week after. Turn out the week after. That sent a chill up my spine. I was like, oh my God. My worst nightmare was 50 Democrats crossing over to vote with the Republicans because of what you're talking about. You remember what it felt like right after the elections? And I said, Jordan, we have work to do. And so thank goodness we had 12 members of Congress that y'all helped us put in who are LGBT. Immediately, every single one, Robert, everybody, they all went and talked to the members who voted against this bill last session of Congress, because that's how they could bring it to the floor, was that it passed the last Congress, so they were going to do it again. I had 3 new members of Congress, including a trans member, that could work the freshman class who I have not yet built relationships with. I'm happy to say that out of the 213-member Democratic caucus, we only lost 3. Only 3 votes. Very important, because the Senate uses the House as basically a live poll. And if the Democrats in the House stand strong, we can count on the Senate to use the filibuster to block. So look, that anti-trans sports bill never got to the floor. Never got to the floor of the House. This wasn't a big news story because we didn't want it to be a big news story. But the story wasn't that Democrats are throwing the trans community under the bus. That wasn't the story. But you didn't really hear the story about how we all stood strong and the Senate stood strong, but that's what happened. And we've been doing this over and over and over again. I can't say the same on immigration. The story's different on immigration. It wasn't real clear to us in January that she's with they, them, and he's with us, that wasn't the cause of the election. But as we've moved further and further away from the election, what's clear is the economy and immigration were like the big cake of why we lost, and trans, the issue, was like the thin icing. It's the thin icing, because we know how that is. They spent $10 million against Abigail Spanberger in Virginia. $10 million. She won by 15 points in the state of Virginia. They did something less to our candidate, Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey. We found out it was minorities are coming back to the Democratic fold. Mm-hmm. What we know is that the economy, the cost of living, they all ran on the issue. And people aren't paying attention. No, I'll tell you one more thing. In the middle of this year, I have a city in my district called Harupa Valley. We have a trans athlete, a trans woman athlete that was winning the state championships. And Trump was going after her, and they were saying, you got to not let her play. I wanted to hold a town hall in that community in like April, June, whatever. We had the LA protests. We had Trump send the National Guard. And we had, that town hall we had to move because suddenly the Minnesota shootings started to happen at the same time. And then the No Kings March brought thousands of people out into my main city of Riverside. I prepped like anything to answer questions about trans athletes, but we had to move the town hall to a bigger forum because interest shot up by the community. I didn't get one single question about trans. every question in that town hall was related to the overreach of ICE. And Congressman, how can we tell the difference between an ICE agent that's wearing a mask and somebody who's pretending to be an ICE agent who's going to jack us up? So I'm telling you what I'm seeing is that we got to learn from Abigail Spanberger.
Right.
Learn how she inoculated herself as candidates. We've got to learn how to respond to the issues, but we can't throw trans people on the bus. Neither one of those governor's candidates caved and threw the trans community under the bus. They didn't give up on their values, but they pivoted quickly to talking about the economy and how we're going to lower the cost of everything. And I think, that's what I've seen change. Right now, there's a lot more clarity. We did not lose the 2024 elections over trans. That was not it. We had I won't go into the whole thing there, but I'm going to tell you, if we continue to talk about how we're going to do better for the American people, lower costs, do better by health care, do better by helping with groceries and housing, we are going to win in November. That's what I got to say. Thank you.
Rev, thank you. Picking back up on what Rev Takano was speaking on. First, I found out today you are recently married. Yes. So congratulations.
Congrats. Period.
It's pretty good.
Congratulations. So in the midst of all this, we always find our joy as well. So how have you still been able to advance the ball in this moment, in 2025, as the assaults seem to continue?
Yeah, thank you. I got married this summer, at the end of the summer, in the Minnesota Capitol to my wife. We had a great big gay wedding, and it was wonderful. And we had, it was the end of August, and I just have to,
Sorry.
the congressman mentioned this, but the last time that we were in the Capitol, it was for the viewing of our speaker who was murdered, assassinated this summer by a man who was pretending to be a cop, dressed up like a cop, wearing a full head mask, killed her husband and her dog, shot another senator and his wife, combined 17 times. Miraculously, they both survived. And then went on, knocked on 2 other doors before went on a 50-hour manhunt. And so that was the context of what happened in the summer, leading up to my wedding, and an opportunity to celebrate with people back in that same building. And it was really powerful, and it was a reminder of what you were talking about, like how do we continue to do the fight? How do we continue to advance the ball? And we do it because we don't have any other choice, right? Like I'm a trans woman. I think being trans is the greatest gift that has ever been given to me, right? It has ever been given to me, and it is not lost on me that when I was elected in 2023, we passed a historical slate of protections for trans people. Just like it is not lost on me that when Sarah McBride got to Congress, Democrats held the line. Because when trans people are there, you can't argue against what it means to be trans, what our joy looks like, what our love and our life looks like. You just have to acknowledge it. So the way that we have continued to do this, what Melissa Hortman, rest in peace, was able to do and understand was that Minnesota, the DFL, Democrats in Minnesota are called the DFL, Democrat Farmer Labor, and we built a movement that says everybody is a part of the same movement. When we say best place to raise a family, we mean all families. Governor Walz, there's this inherent understanding among the leadership of our recent DFL that we're just not going to put any separation between these people and these people, right? Our Somali neighbors, we have the largest Somali population in Minnesota, and there is no separation. Our rights are not secure if their rights are not secure.
Correct.
And when we do it now, last night, I was at the press conference with Zainab Mohammed talking about what's happening in our community. And a week before last night, I was at the press conference for the ICE raid that happened in my district, right? Where HSI and ICE showed up with one warrant and they kidnapped 14 workers out of a warehouse because they will do anything they want, right? We have no power over these people. And until we acknowledge what it means for us to continue to fight against them and to protect people and to recognize that our rights without their rights are meaningless, then we won't be able to keep moving the ball. But we have understood that, and we have held incredibly strong in Minnesota, and at great cost. It has been the worst year in Minnesota for a very long time, but it has also been one of the most moving and meaningful years of work in the movement space and in politics, because nothing clarifies what the work looks like what we are undergoing now, right? It's the pathway is clear. We need to protect the people that we love. And the other side, these guys in the White House, they don't know love. They don't know love. So that is how we do it. We just follow that pathway.
That's right.
Wow. Mayor, picking up on what Rep. Finke was talking about in terms of ICE raids, you run a city where ICE and you are, like myself, have many our intersectionality in who we represent, people of color, but also our queer identities. How are you leading in this moment and protecting our residents in this moment where ICE and Trump is literally terrorizing our communities?
Yeah, it's complicated. It's a complicated time. You know, San Diego is the nation's largest border city, but we also happen to be the largest, the safest big city in America. You would never get that from cable news. Our homicide rate is literally the smallest, or lowest of any big city in the United States. And so this conflation of border and immigration being about lawlessness and violence, this is complete bullshit. Yeah. And you need to hear that. That's a responsibility of the mayor of San Diego to make that very clear wherever you go. The border is an asset, that the diversity of our city makes us more economically competitive, and that we need to do whatever we can to protect that force multiplier that is our ability to design things in San Diego, manufacture them in Tijuana, and then export it to the world and employ all of our people. But this is now in danger by these raids that are happening. They started out fairly big. Many of you saw the operation in MacArthur Park in Los Angeles, but a few weeks before that, they tried it out in San Diego. They showed up at an Italian restaurant in Councilmember Whitburn's district at dinner hour, looking for one dishwasher. They took away 4. These are folks without criminal records,
Correct.
to our knowledge. What happened, though, and this is something to keep in mind, they were in there for about an hour. It takes a while to process that many people, interview them, try and link up identities, paperwork. In that hour or so, the community, the neighborhood of South Park, the phone tree got going. And next thing you know, 200 San Diegans surround the federal agents to make it very clear that this is not okay. That is not who we are. We as San Diegans, these are our fellow San Diegans. We care and love these people. And the agents responded with flashbangs and real militaristic kind of behavior. And it was not the best, it was a very tough and heavy day for our city. Subsequently to that, I think they learned their lesson. Don't mess around with San Diegans. But they continue their individual targeted efforts, and there are collateral issues. They may have somebody that has some sort of a record, but while they're on that work site or at that daycare or at that school, when they're collecting other people and taking them away without any due process, one of my sanitation workers was held in custody for weeks. He has legal status, but he was held there for weeks. He's the father of 6 children. We took up a collection amongst city employees to provide him the leave time so that he can continue to get paid while he's in federal custody after having done nothing wrong. So this is the state of play in America's cities right now. And this is a record that we have to keep. So how are we trying to deal with it? Very quickly, because I know we've got other questions, but immediately issuing an executive order reemphasizing California state law, which is that we do not use state and local resources to implement federal immigration law. Making it sure that it's very clear to every San Diegan that is not what San Diego Police Department does. Starting business walks in minority communities. I personally am going door to door with businesses with Know Your Rights cards to make sure that business owners are informed not only for themselves and their employees, but for their customers. They could be the next Italian restaurant where this happens. We are convening other mayors in my county who don't have the resources of the city of San Diego. We're the 8th largest city in this country. I know you didn't know that, but it's true. We're 1.4 million people, but if you're a small city like Del Mar, which is 4,000 people, but also have immigrant populations, how are we arming that community to be able to prepare for it? This has gone well. My only lessons learned is you're never gonna hear me say no ICE in San Diego. Not because I'm happy about what's happening, I'm very unhappy, but I'll never lie to my constituents. Every time one of these incidents happen, I contact ICE to try and get whatever information I can and make it public. And they've made very clear to me they don't care what the mayor of San Diego has to say, they're gonna continue to do what they're doing because the orders are coming from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. I say that to say that I never want to give the false impression to my constituents that they're safe. In this environment, they are not going to be completely safe. But what we can do is make sure that they're educated. We can make sure we're supporting our nonprofits that provide the legal assistance and the other tools that they can arm to protect themselves. And we can speak very clearly that we support our immigrant community and to support elected leaders at other levels of government where we can make the legal changes that are necessary. San Diego has sued the Trump administration a multitude of times in just the 11 months. I'm sure we'll continue to sue. But I have to be honest with you, this is the state of play until this administration changes or until we get a change in Congress. I'm hoping for the latter because we cannot deal with this for 4 more years. No. We have to give some peace to our neighborhoods, hopefully within a year's time.
We're grateful for Mayor Gloria's leadership, and I failed to admit that Mayor Gloria is the incoming president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, so his leadership will be on a national level come next year. Rep. Rayner, you and I share a similarity that sucks. I am joined here, or I stand on the shoulders of our state senator in Ohio, Nikki Antonio, who's a minority leader in Ohio, and but she's retiring, or she's term limited out of the Senate, and that means that in Ohio we won't have any openly gay or lesbian out members in the state legislature. We have California represented, we have Minnesota represented. It is very different to lead in a red state. When you are representing a blue community, a progressive community that wants to see fight, it is very, very different to do that fight with the dangers of being in a red state. How do you do it? How are you impactful? How are you effective in that space?
Oh, well, thank you for that loaded question. No, seriously, I think one of the things that I think about is that the moment that we're in, we've been here before. So I am very clear about the intersectionality of my identities. I'm a Black queer woman from the South. So it is not lost on me the shoulders that I stand on, and I stand on the shoulders of my grandmother who had a 6th grade education and cleaned houses for white folks, right? I stand on the shoulders of my parents who my mother integrated the University of South Florida and would get death threats as she walked to class. So when I say we have been here before, whether you are Black, whether you are white, whether you are trans, whether you identify as the G, the L, whatever, we have been here before. So if we personally haven't been here before, our ancestors have been here before, and they have laid the pathway for us to have understanding of looking back of how to be successful in this moment. So that's the first thing I really have to center myself in understanding, like, there's nothing new under the sun. Like, this is America.
Yeah.
And right now it is in our faces in a way that is very dangerous, but also understanding Florida specifically has been this way for 25 years, right? Our last, Democratic governor was Lawton Childs. I was in middle school or high school, I don't know. And so you've had to look at other folks, and I've been very lucky. I served with Senator Smith in the House, so when I came in, he was already there. Senator Jones had just left the House to go to the Senate, and so I looked at how they led and how they, got things done. And once again, it comes back to deciding who you're going to be. It comes back to deciding how you're going to show up. And I've been very fortunate to be effective, but be very principled. People know, don't come to me on no bullshit. Don't ask me to do no dumb shit. Do not ask me for that, because you will get cussed out, right? But you will. I mean, it's happened. But I also know how to be able to find common ground about things that matter to people in my community. Because at the end of the day, what matters to folks where I live is that they want to make sure that they have access to food, right? They want to make sure that, their kid is able to go to school. They want to make sure that their property insurance isn't going to go sky high and they can't protect their house. And guess what? That's not a Black issue. That's not a white issue. That's not an LGBTQ issue. That's a human being issue. And so when I drill on that and I say, then you talk about when you attack our community, and I say, you want me to focus on all these things, but you don't even believe that I deserve the right to exist. If I can't get you to understanding property insurance matters if you don't think I even deserve to exist. And so you bring those correlations, and I think for me, I've just gotten to a point, I'm gonna say it, yes, I'm running for state senate, but I'm not married to being elected. I'm married to doing what's right.
Right.
I'm married to my title, all of those things, and the shucking and jiving to keep a title, y'all got it. I'm not gonna do that. What I'm gonna do is make sure the people of Florida know that they have a champion regardless and is going to stand on the side of right and will still get things done and look good doing it.
You're wearing that dress. You're wearing that dress,
you
bro.
know. I know, it's my sister's dress. I sent it to her. She was very upset. She goes, you look better than me. Then I was like, I know, I'm done. Hello.
I'm interested, and this could really be for anybody, and maybe for a couple of folks, as we think about this moment, and I guess I am still wearing that I am in a red state. And I think we kind of talked about this backstage so Columbus, Ohio has the second largest Somali population. So I have spent the day doing media about how we are protecting our Somali population back home. But right now, the feds are focused on your state. How do we all balance stepping up and fighting for and being seen, fighting back, without also trying not to draw attention sometimes to actually make our folks that we're trying to keep safe unsafe? Like, how do we balance that? I can see that from the local level, Mayor, we talked about that. Or anybody, how do we do that balance? Because I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer, but it's something that I think all electeds right now grapple with. Anybody?
I mean,
Go ahead.
I mean, right now, the mic is somewhere. Right now, it is a balancing act, because in the state of Florida, the last session, they passed a law basically that law enforcement could be bounty hunters, right, for folks who they believe are undocumented. So basically, if you're a sheriff, you go get someone and then you get money from the state. It's giving slave catching.
It's wild.
It's giving slave patrols, right?
That's wild.
And so you have to kind of get creative in the way that the mayor was talking about, letting people know what their rights are. Getting creative about pivoting out of the question of immigration and saying, this is what this man is doing with your money. He spent $425 million to build a concentration camp. And guess what? You still don't have food. Eggs are 100 million US American dollars. Your property taxes, and letting him really drawing the correlation for people that people's lives are being affected, and you don't have what you need. And I think that, really leading with values, and it's been very hard because what it's also doing, if we're not careful, it's trying to pit us against each other. You want me to say it again? If we're not careful, it's trying to pit us against each other. And so also understanding, it's been an education telling, maybe my neighbor, Miss Jackson, you know why you need to care that Mr. Sanchez may have got picked up? Let me talk to you about it. Because it's gonna be you next. Right. What, Michelle? No, it's not. Let's talk about it. And let's talk about there are people with status, there are people who are American citizens sitting in Alligator Alcatraz. Sure. So also understanding that it's not us versus them, it is all of us versus, I'm gonna use my words, that person that's over there. I had a lot of, I was gonna use the MFR word, but then I realized I want to keep it cute, but yeah. So so it's education, but it's really education to our people, to our neighbors. That's how I've kind of been dealing with it.
Rep, how are you dealing with this balance?
Well, I think, first of all, keep the focus on what the bigger message is to what most of the people are suffering and feeling. We got to show that, get that credibility and trust on the issues that matter to them. And so, hence you saw the Republicans shutting down the government. It was the Republican shutdown of the federal government. And the Democrats said this is a shutdown over health care. Healthcare is the number one concern about what the cost is, the cost of living is in America. So we got to talk about healthcare. When they tried to bait my colleague Sarah McBride into a battle over bathrooms, she says, as much as I disagree with what the speaker is doing, like not allowing me to use the women's bathroom here, I'm going to comply because I didn't come to Congress to make this about me. I came to Congress to to fight for health care, to fight for housing, for lower costs of food. Many people may not agree with that, but Sarah McBride said, let's put what the concerns are of the people like paramount. So
That's right.
let's keep that before us, right? So that's in the foreground all of the time. But you know what? Trump is actually, what was his strength, which was dividing us over immigration, is now becoming a weakness. It's not as much of a weakness as other issues, but it's becoming a weakness. People don't like seeing masked people snatch people off the streets. I amplify the issue over citizens being detained. Robert Garcia did a brilliant move in Los Angeles having a shadow hearing where I think 20 of my colleagues showed up, including from other states. He had a witness that I was able to question who was an American citizen going to her job, and she ended up in detention for 3 days, even after she showed him her California ID. I was on my way to someplace, and I told my assistant, I said, go get me my passport. I had my passport, I was traveling that day. I held up my passport at the meeting. I said to the witness, I said, do you carry a passport with you now? She said, yes, I do. I feel like I have to. Mm-hmm. Did you carry one before this happened? She says, no, I never even thought about it. Do you know how many people now feel like they have to carry passports
For sure.
around with them?
For sure.
You're carrying your passport. I said a very simple 15-second line. No American should have to feel like they have to carry a passport in their own country. It is a scandal and a shame that this president has made people feel that they have to carry a passport in their own country. That message has gone viral. And there's a huge debate going on in the comment section. Like, well, why don't they just carry an ID? No, stupid. You should carry there's a whole education process going on because half the population doesn't understand, or actually maybe 2/3 of the population doesn't understand that 1/3 of the population feels like they have to carry a passport. Mm-hmm. So there's something happening. So it's strategic communication, what you choose to uplift. Yes, American citizens are being affected by the indifference of this administration, the willful indifference to civil liberties, to due process, et cetera. That affects everybody. So bringing it back to what affects everybody. I think focus on maybe these two big things are helpful. There's probably other things that I'm forgetting in the moment. But that's kind of how I handle this moment, yeah.
It was so interesting you brought up the passports. I had dinner with a Somali friend of mine who's a naturalized American citizen on Monday, the day before the president said these disgusting things. And he brought out his passport and he said, I carry it around, but this was the kicker for me. He said, and I still don't think it's enough. That's
right.
sick. That is sickening to me.
It's like freedom papers. It's
exactly.
basically freedom papers.
Exactly.
It's basically the hearkening. When I say we've been here before, like we have been here before. And it's incumbent upon us to resist.
So Mayor Karen Bass used that moment to talk about how this was reminiscent of the passes in South Africa, the pass system in South Africa. And of course, I grew up, I'm older than a lot of folks in this room, but I grew up watching movies about Nazi Germany and the famous, like, you're in the train and the Gestapo asks you, papers please, right? There's a whole group of Americans that understand that. There's an education process because the whole generation is kind of removed, 2 generations removed from those Nazi war movies. But we can't allow to normalize this idea that we turn America into a place where you've got to prove your citizenship.
Right.
We've become that.
Shannon, just
Mayor.
very quickly, this obviously calling out this stuff is very, very important, but I have to say, we also have to stay disciplined.
Yes.
There is a reason why he's saying these horrible, horrible things this week of all weeks. Why? Because millions of Americans' healthcare premiums are going up right now. They're opening up their websites,
right.
they're opening up, and they're finding out what's going on. And
right.
he would rather
That's
us
good.
be fighting amongst each other for
Correct.
10, 15 minutes on CNN tonight, rather than having someone with a camera in their
Talk
face
about
saying,
healthcare.
this man is causing my healthcare to go
Correct,
up, and I'm going
correct.
to lose my house because of it.
That's good.
Correct.
That is what he's up to, and he's
That's-
hoping
that's the word.
that we will take the bait. So you start and you say, Somali Americans are a key part of our country. They are a huge community in San Diego, and we're a better city because of it. But I will not let this man take my eye off the prize, which is that he is trying to make sure that the costs are passed on to actual American consumers to the benefit of billionaires and corporations
You
who are
better
going to do
preach.
this. So let's stay focused and don't allow this man to take our eye off the ball. That's exactly how we lose everything we fought so hard to win, because it's not about it's Somalis today, it's gay marriage tomorrow,
Correct.
whatever. But again, when those folks go to the ballot box next year, and if their healthcare premiums are the same and we have not talked enough about it, they will not vote for us,
Correct.
and we will lose more. We can only stand a year or two
That's
of
the
this. I don't
word.
think we can stand 4.
That's the word.
That's good. That's good.
That's a word,
That's
man.
good. Rep. Finke, how do you deal? Is it the same mess?
I mean, yeah, I agree with everything here, right? Like, it's hard, and we have a lot to do, and we have to keep, I both agree with everything the mayor just said, and I also want to say, but we also have to put our attention on our Somali neighbors, right? Because they are being kidnapped.
Right.
It's not a distraction when trans people are being attacked. Trans people are being attacked, and it's the experience of that for communities who are put into the limelight for the reason that you're talking about is also essential for us to not forget, right? And I'm not saying that you are doing that, right? But there is just this constant need to be on both of these, sides, right? Because the moment we think, I was talking to some attorney, the attorney general in Minnesota, and he was like,
Some attorney.
So just some guy.
Some random human.
I try not to name drop or whatever. I was talking to Keith on the phone, and
All right, Keith.
he was like,
Just Keith.
what is it like when they say like, oh, trans issue is just a distraction, right? It's a distraction from the real issues. And I told them, like, yeah, that's really hurtful. It's
Yeah.
really hurtful for young trans people to hear that our rights are a distraction from what matters to voters. Because we don't matter to voters. Healthcare matters to voters.
My God.
And if we're not talking about healthcare, we're talking about what doesn't matter. And it's like, well, most kids hear that. They hear you don't actually care about my rights, and that my rights is just a sort of political dance that we're doing, because it doesn't really matter what happens to trans athletes or trans healthcare. And that's really, really potent. It's a really potent turnoff for people to be a part of what we're trying to build. And I know that that's not unique to trans people. That goes across the entire political landscape, right? And there are always people who are hearing messages that are like, why would I come and support you? This is what you're saying, right? And when we have elections that are won by the narrowest of margins in this country, 1% of the vote. Minnesota, we passed our trans refuge law in 2023, and it worked. We have the largest percentage of trans people in America now.
Wow.
I take that very, very seriously. I take that responsibility very seriously.
For sure.
And I don't want any of them to think that their lives are a distraction.
Yeah, that's powerful.
one of the reasons I love Victory Fund is because our Victory Institute is because we get to come together and we get to hear from different levels of representation from around the country. Today I got to have lunch with Attorney General from Arizona, Attorney General Mays, and we talked a lot, and almost the entire lunch was about, Democratic Attorney Generals are saving us around the country. We really have to give it up for Democratic Attorney Generals. But so much of the conversation was about the defense that we are playing right now. As we go into 2026, how do we switch into the offense? What is the offensive side of being and protecting not just LGBTQ plus individuals, but all of those folks that we represent? What does going on the offense look like? And I actually thought of that question, Rep, when you talked about the ghost hearing or the shadow hearing. That seemed like an offensive strategy. What are the other state and local strategies that we can employ that are not just on the defense, but offensively move us forward in this moment? And that's just an open question.
I mean,
Well, look, this has already been done. It's just about a month ago. But, in California, actually, we were hearing stories over the summer, like in June or July, about Texas and President Trump putting forth this scheme to do a mid-decade redistricting.
Right.
And my staff was in a staff iPhone chat, all getting depressed. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to ask AI. So I asked AI a question, whichever AI it was I was doing. I said, can the governor and California legislature put a special election on the ballot? And it gave me back an example of Arnold Schwarzenegger doing a special tax and a special election on the tax, and they could do it with a 2/3 vote of each chamber, et cetera, all that. So I sent it to them, and they're going, oh, wow, could this really happen? I said, yeah. So then I thought I had the great idea, and I walked into the chamber and talked to Zoe Lofgren, the dean of our delegation, and she was one of the impeachment managers, a lawyer. She's on a senior member of the judiciary. She goes, oh, yeah, I've already thought of this. Pete Aguilar and I are talking to the governor, right? I was like, oh, great. I was like, but all that summer, you're talking about how going to office? All that summer, the California delegation worked it out.
Yes.
We had a tight timeline. We had to have everybody work together. 2/3, that's not an easy thing in each chamber. They got on the ballot, and we pushed back, and it was successful. Here's what I want to say to you, what happened. In Riverside County, as the mayor knows, it's not one of the more super uber progressive counties. Joe Biden won the county by 3% in 2020. Kamala Harris lost it by 5%. Governor Newsom has never done super well in my area. So Biden was the high point, 53%. Kamala Harris loses by 5. Proposition 50 wins my county with 57% of the vote. Okay? So we went on offense to do that, right? We took a risk. It was no easy task. I can't think of any other. That was a strategy we had to do. Yeah. But look, Virginia saying they can draw a 9-to-1 map. Other states are organizing. Missouri, people in the Missourians in the room, they're trying to take away Emmanuel Cleaver's historically African-American seat. You can fight back with an initiative in that state. We can all in this room help Missouri. These are all things we can do I'm just on one track here, but there's other ideas probably about how we can go on offense.
it's interesting in a red state.
Yeah, for sure.
It's interesting in Florida, but I think one of the things that I always go back to is the relationship building with your community. I always say, you can't just knock on doors when it's, an election time. what are you doing when it's not an election time? And so I think that one of the things that I've been really successful with, and I don't know if he's in here, but my business partner, Dr. Byron Green College, oh yeah, he's back there, hey boo. We have an organization called Justice Over Everything, and one of the things that we do is we really actually focus on educating our community and like breaking it down for like fifth graders, and also establishing, it's called Good People, Good Trouble. So we actually bring people together. So people who don't know each other in the community, but they have the same values, and then you see that they're aligned, and then they're able to bring other people. And so we get creative, we do the old school, like yes, knocking on doors and educating, but then we teach people how to even come up to the state legislature and actually testify before a committee, people who've never done that before. We teach people how to lobby, even if they're not actual registered lobbyists. So we are really for us, in Florida, it is really about educating people and giving them the tools to be able to do it so that they can organize their own communities and they don't have to look to a politician, but they have the power within themselves to be able to affect the change.
Probably have time for just one more question. Mayor, do you have something?
Well, I thought we were wrapping up
please,
with
I
what
would
you
love-
wanted to suggest to people, and I'm with Congressman Takano. Get yourself a governor like Gavin Newsom, everybody.
That's like so rude, right? So rude. It's so rude.
Here's what I would say, though. I think everything is, all that's great. We have a president who claimed he could fix everything and has fixed nothing,
Correct.
right? Take my personal passion subject, which is housing. This man's a developer, but the cost of housing is not getting less. No more Americans can afford housing because we elected a construction guy our president, right? He is absolutely incapable of delivering the results that matter to people. And I'm here as a blue state mayor to let you know that in my city, now I've already shared with you, safest big city in America, blue state, border community, goes against what you might expect. I'm also here to share with you that we have reduced homelessness in my city by 14%, by 2/3 in downtown San Diego. Thank you, Councilmember Whitburn, for your leadership on that. From 2,200 tents 2 years ago to less than 700 today. 700 is too many, but that's progress. And probably most importantly in my city, in California, where the regulations are insane, right, and the bars are high, we have more than doubled new home production in my city, which means that rents are flattening out and in some cases going down. Success leaves clues. And in the face of a historically unqualified and unaccomplished president, we can show people across this country, and I believe mayors will be leading the way on this, Shannon, I'm looking at you, that we can reduce the amount of homelessness in our community, that we can keep our communities safe, that we can reduce the cost of living and put more roofs over people's heads at the price that they can't afford. A winning agenda, a successful agenda, will help defeat this historically unaccomplished president.
We're getting the please wrap up sign. I just want, because there are candidates here,
Yeah.
I want, if we could just go around, it could be a one sentence. Why should someone outrun now? This is harder. I've been in office for 11 years. This is not how it was even 11 years ago. Why should an out candidate run now? Rep, we want to start with you.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. Why am I running
I
again?
love your realness.
That's real.
Fran, I love your, Fran, I love your realness.
It's we need you to run. I mean, we don't have another alternative. The history tells us that the way that we change this thing is by being in the room, no matter what the room looks like. And it's not easy, and it's been very hard. I'm in a blue state. We had great accomplishments, and my life has been turned upside down by anti-trans hate. But we need you more than ever to run and to run safely. So, yeah, I mean, talk to the people here, and then be safe and then win.
Thank you.
Two things very, very quickly. Number one is there will always be a mayor of San Diego. It can be someone who believes in government, who wants to help people and don't care about titles but want to get things done. So if you don't run, someone else like that may run. And so I think you kind of have a required. And here's the last thing. First person of color, first LGBTQ person to serve as mayor of this city. I know this from experience. You have my permission to run for office, okay? You don't have to wait for someone to tell you that it's okay. You don't have to wait for someone to tell you that it's now time. I don't believe in running quixotic races, but I also recognize that many of us will be the first to tell ourselves that we should not do this, that this is not for us. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my friends, I'm here to tell you, this is for you. Get in this fight, because someone else surely will if you do not.
Period. You over here preaching. I mean, if not you, then who? I mean, that's really the question. If not you, then who? Is it going to be someone that is going to not lead with value and not lead with integrity and not lead with fidelity? Or is it someone that understands, I know what it is to be oppressed. I know what it is to walk and still get up every morning and still do the things I need to do and still fight for my community. So if not you, who is it going to be? So why not you?
You know, whether this is the moment for, I think the question to ask is, for me, is this moment the right moment for you? The moment may need LGBT members to step forward, but for you who are interested in running for office, you know, really take a deep look at that question, answer it for yourself honestly. I will encourage you to start at the local level. That's where I started with, and I think it's a look. I co-chair Equality PAC, and I'm looking at candidates all the time who want to run for Congress. I'm often the most interested in people who have successfully run for office at the local level and accomplished something, and have built trust with their people. So, I think the most important thing to do is not look at whether this moment is calling you, but whether internally you feel ready for this moment. And if you do, that's the moment to go. But use your time at Victory to develop yourself and to know that it's extremely worthwhile for you to start in your own community. Like, find the community that you call your community. And build that trust with the people. That's what I think endures as an openly gay person who served for 22 years, losing 2 times for the Congress early on. But something had clicked by the time I was 22 years in. The community looked at me as a gay person or not as a gay person, and that 22 years meant something to that community. So, I will answer the question a little differently. Build trust with your community as elected officials.
And when you do make that choice for yourself, Victory will be there to support you. Would you help me celebrate this amazing panel, our leaders? Thank you.